I was talking with a friend of mine when when the state troopers pulled up. I literally said, "Hey, I got to go. The state troopers are
Yeah,
coming."
I'm videotaping this because this is some bullshit. You don't.
My wife, in this case, was planning something the whole time.
All right, so here's the deal. She's serving a PFA against you.
What is that?
Protection from abuse.
Protection from abuse. And what are the ramifications of that? Because then when I asked him, am I going to have to leave? He's like, yeah, you're going to have to leave.
Being evicted from my house now. Immediately, but what we allow you to do is get an overnight bag. All right, so we'll go inside. You can get some of your things.
You know, I was just, man, I was so shocked. Shocked.
I have to leave with you? No, you can drive away. No. What I'm asking you is, I have to leave right now.
And again, it feels surreal to have the police in my house walking behind me. But the divorce papers were served about 45 minutes before the sheriffs came to my house.
Wow.
I had no idea that she had actually filed for divorce.
Wow.
Yep. So you can go inside, gather up some of your things. We allow you that courtesy. And you have your car here?
I do.
And then on your own accord, you can leave here, okay?
You don't have to be married to somebody for them to pull this on you.
Right.
And you could have a prenuptial and have somebody pull this on you. There's nothing that can prevent this from happening other than the person who decides to
leave, and I can leave after you leave. I just have to leave. We're gonna leave. No, we're gonna leave with you. We're gonna leave together. Okay. You definitely have to leave today, okay?
Got you. They were trying to get a 3-year PFA. I should mention that.
Jesus Christ.
A 3-year PFA for this alleged. Her attorney reached out to me and wrote to me, "We are willing to withdraw the PFA if you will give her exclusive possession of the property."
Daddy.
Take a real man to be a daddy.
Mommy.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, go.
Just let me say thank you for coming on to the show. I know what you've been through is not easy, So and as I mentioned over the phone, this platform is really although it's dedicated to fathers, what you went through, a lot of us actually go through the same thing. You know what I mean? And one thing I've noticed, it really doesn't matter about race or whatever. When it comes to men, for some reason, it seems like the core system, the family core system to be exact, it seemed like just against us. So your story was sent to me on TikTok, and after I watched it and I reposted on my platforms, it was crazy how many people really been through the same thing, and I personally went through somewhat of similar situation, and I somewhat understand how it feels really going through that, feeling alone, like nobody's listening. And it's very hard to really prove yourself, So I think you did one of the good things when you recorded it, and also shared it. So, but I wanted you, if you can just talk a little about your story, just help us understand really what happened. And I also have the clip that was sent to me, and I'll play it for you, and if you can also walk us through it. And again, this is to, help the dads that are going through it, understand how to deal with it, how to protect yourself, really. I think that's really the reason why I wanted to do this. How did you protect yourself apart from the video? If you had a lawyer, if you defended yourself, how did it impact you, from the day it started to this very moment? You have children, right? And,
I do.
Yeah. How did it impact your children? So I'm really curious to see how you handle it. So I'll give you the floor.
And I thank you so much again for having me. Again, my name is Ulysses Butch Slaughter. Identity for me becomes really important in this conversation,
Right.
because there's a way that you can forget who you are,
Mm-hmm.
and you can begin to question who you are when you go through something like this.
Right.
Because one of the things that it's designed to do, a false allegation is designed to do, is to destabilize you.
Right.
It's supposed to destabilize you. It discredits you.
Right.
It's supposed to discredit you. I mean, an allegation, a false allegation, is designed to have people look at you sideways, as this one person said. Like, are you an abuser?
Right.
So it's designed to destabilize you, discredit you, and I throw in it's designed to depress you as well. So to really make you feel bad, so that you become defenseless, and so that you're in shock. And so when this happened, I remember the moment it happened so clearly, and I want to state this because what people are seeing right now actually happened 2 years ago.
Okay.
This happened 2 years ago. And so people are asking me, why am I putting it out now?
Being evicted from my house now.
Immediately, but what we allow you to do is get an overnight bag. All right, so
Right.
we'll go inside so you can get some of your things.
I have to leave with you?
No, you can drive away.
No. What I'm asking you is, I have to leave right now.
Correct. Yep. So you can go inside, gather up some of your things. We allow you that courtesy. And do you have your car here?
I do.
And then on your own accord, you can leave here, okay?
Right.
And so when I say things like it came out of nowhere, I see people responding and saying, no, it didn't come out of nowhere. Well, to the person on the receiving side of this, it comes out of nowhere. Of course, my wife in this case was planning something the whole time.
Right.
But you can't destabilize somebody like that if you let them know in advance you're going to do it. So you got to do a really good job of hiding your hand. And so I was talking with a friend of mine when when the state troopers pulled up. I literally said, "Hey, I got to go. The state troopers are coming." And so right away, I started thinking, this is related to my wife. I don't know what this is, but this has something to do with my wife. And she had left the house. She had actually left the house she had been gone for like 4 or 5 days. She'd been gone for 4 or 5 days.
So she was planning this ahead of time then.
She was planning
Yeah,
this
she was
ahead of
planning.
time. And there's so much documentation, Mustafa, that I have to show that. I think, people make mistakes a lot of the times when they're planning something bad.
Right.
I go back and I look at the trail and I go, okay, right there. Okay, right there. I see it now. But when the state troopers came up, I'm a journalist. I'm a filmmaker. I'm a content creator in a different kind of way. So
Right.
I generally will have a phone in my hand doing something all the time, recording audio notes, video, whatever.
Right.
So when I saw them pull up, I'm like, okay, I need to capture whatever's about to be said to me, whatever's about to be done. I want it. I've never been arrested in my life. Have never committed a crime. And I still kind of get a sense of what I need to do when I see the police pull up in my driveway.
Right.
And so I walk out, and the video really says it all. So for about 20 to 25 minutes, I'm holding my phone walking around the house. I haven't shown some clips, obviously, where I'm actually going into my room. They took my gun from me.
Yeah, usually they have to take your gun.
Yeah. So they took the gun. And I have to say this, for the most part, these guys, number one, they were doing a job that they were told to do.
Right.
I thought they did it well for the most part. It's not their job to negotiate.
Or try to understand what happened. Exactly. Yeah, they're there to serve the
That ain't their
paper.
job.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's right. They show up with the paper, and they take you out of the house. And that's what they did. And they did it in a very professional way. I couldn't have asked for 2 better guys to have me removed from my house. So anyway, I'm walking around, and I was just, man, I was so shocked that I was walking around with these 2 guys behind me, police officers. As I walked in the house, I had to go into the house. I had to let my dogs in. I had to go up to my bedroom, pack up clothes. Again, they confiscated my gun. I walked back downstairs. And again, it feels surreal to have the police in my house walking behind me doing this thing. And again, I should mention this also. I'm a military guy. I did almost 6 years in the Navy. I'm a martial artist. There's some things that I just kind of know from experience and some things from instinct in terms of engaging what I'll call paramilitary or military officers. I just kind of know.
Right.
There's a way that I wanted to hold myself so that they were comfortable that, you know, nothing was going.
Yeah, that you wasn't a threat.
I'm not a threat.
Right.
You know, it was please and thank you and all that kind of stuff.
And I think that's actually good to mention, because if you get ugly with them, it's like you're giving her, it's like you're making it seem like what she's saying about you is right. So I think the best thing that you can do, and I had to go through this, the best thing that you can do to yourself or for your case is to remain as calm as you possibly can and be respectful. Whatever question that they ask, you reply to it. Whatever order that they give you, you comply to it, because you just never know who's watching. And I think most of them actually record these interactions that can be used against you in court. You know, and I have people that it happened to because they were so shocked, just like you was, but a lot of them couldn't hold the composure. You know, so they started arguing with the police officers. You know, one actually tried to fight the police officer, and they took that to court. So, although he was an abuser, but because of the way he interacted with the police officer, the judge granted that restraining order. You know, so yeah. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you so much. And I think that the other reason why I put this out is that I felt like it could be used as a cautionary tale.
Right.
I'm a storyteller, and I've had to tell stories about my life before. I think I mentioned to you when I was a young man, my father shot and killed my mother.
Sorry to hear that. Right.
And I was a 12-year-old witness to that. And I've told stories about that. I've done productions about that. And so when I look at this just thinking about it now, it's just kind of like, wow. And I want to thank you again. I can imagine the trauma.
For a 12-year-old to see something like that, that's crazy.
Yeah. And then like even this situation of being removed from my house, when I think about that, I just go, wow, that actually happened. I was removed from my house. So I wanted to tell this as a cautionary tale, and I think to be able to help men and women, fathers, mothers, whomever sees this and understand how I was kind of pacing myself in that moment of being removed. If I can help anybody with that, because that is not about the woman in this case. That process right there is between you and the two people, in my case, the two guys walking behind.
Right.
You want to get through that. You need to get through that as cleanly as possible, because you're dealing with a PFA, protection from abuse, and people, you know, question why I didn't know what a protection from abuse was.
I actually wanted to go back to when you first started saying that people were saying that you should have known or you should have seen it coming, you know. And one thing I wanted to mention, right, when you are in this moment, no matter how bad the relationship was, you can never think that your ex or, you know, someone that you once loved will raise these type of allegations against you. So it's very hard to say that you should have seen it coming. You know what I mean? Because you have never done it before. You have never done it before. So there was no way that my mind can go to that place of saying that, you know what, she will raise these type of allegations against me. You know, and a lot of people that say that are usually people that have never been through it, or they don't know anybody that, you know, someone close friend or family member that's been through it to be able to really explain it to them firsthand. You know, so that was a crazy. When I think I actually saw some comment that was mentioning that he should have seen it coming. I'm like, how? You have never been an abusive person. Like, how can you see someone raise these lies against you, saying that you abuse them just so that they can get the upper hand? You know, and we see this in the father side. We see this in child support, in custody cases, and then sometimes even for like in your case, if they wants to get the house, that's what they would do, you know. And once you have been removed, it makes the case much easier for them, especially if they have a good lawyer.
Yes, yes. And all of that was set up. She had
Mm-hmm.
it all set up.
Yeah.
I didn't mention this, but the divorce papers were served about 45 minutes before the sheriffs came to my house.
Wow.
I had no idea that she had actually filed for a divorce.
Wow.
I had no idea that I think on July 29th, 2021, she filed for divorce. I didn't see divorce papers. I actually got them electronically and I didn't see them in my email.
Mm.
The first time I saw divorce documents was 45 minutes before
The sheriff showed up.
the sheriff showed up.
Wow.
So talk about clockwork. Talk about setting somebody up. This
Mm-hmm.
was it. This was kind of like, let's hit them with everything. And to say you don't, that I should have seen it coming. And again, I don't know what a PFA is.
Right.
Why should I know what a protection from abuse is?
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard it before. Never heard that term in my life. And I've worked with a lot of people. I've worked with people who've been incarcerated. I've worked with people who've done time. I've worked with people who have had to go to court. I've never heard the term before. And so when he said that, I really did need him to explain what is that? Protection from abuse.
Mm-hmm.
And what are the ramifications of that? Because then when I asked him, am I going to have to leave? He's like, yeah, you're going to have to leave. I'm learning in the moment.
Right. Yeah,
I'm
I have
sitting there
the
learning
video.
in the
I'm gonna play in a little bit so you can walk us through it. So let me ask you this though: how did you have to, when they removed you from the house? Did you still have contact with your kids? Or let me ask, how old are your kids, if I can ask that?
First of all, my wife and I don't share children.
Okay.
So my children are my children.
Okay.
She had children and she brought children into the relationship.
Okay.
At the time that happened, my youngest was 16.
Okay.
He was 15 going on 16.
Okay.
And he stayed at the house with us all the time. I split custody with his mom, split time with his mom. And then my second oldest was 16 going on 17.
Okay.
And so I had two minors for the most part that were at the house with us all the time. And then I had two older daughters. So I put up a video where they actually go back to the house and they're trying to get in the house and she won't.
Yeah, I believe I have that video as well. So I have 3 parts of the yeah.
Okay. So and then my youngest daughter was 20. She was 19 at the time. Now we lived a half a mile from the college campus where my daughter was going to school. She was going to be a freshman. She was going to be a freshman. She was due to start school about a week after this happened.
Mm-hmm.
So my ex wouldn't let them back in the house either.
Wow.
Gave them no explanation. And then I had my oldest daughter had just turned 21 and she was actually living with us at the time. So I was bringing up my children because we all moved into that house together. We had just bought that house in June 2020. We had just bought the house. It's a historic house, beautiful house, built in 1794.
Okay.
3 acres of land, just a beautiful, beautiful piece of property. Pond in the middle of the backyard. 2 streams running the length of the 3 acres. It's just a beautiful piece of property. And so for her to remove my children without explanation, to me says a lot about
the person. Yeah.
The person.
That's
and
terrible.
It's terrible. It's just absolutely terrible. And somebody would say, well, her lawyer probably told her to do that. Well, after I got lawyers, my lawyers told me to do things, and I said, no, I'm not doing it.
It comes down to the person, and I truly
Yes,
believe
it
that.
does.
Yeah, the lawyer only do what you allow them to do because technically
That's
they're
correct.
working for you. Yeah, so that
That's
excuse,
correct.
I never believed that type of excuse. So, yeah, that
Yeah.
is what she wanted to do. You know.
That's correct. That's correct. And has not spoken to them since that happened.
Wow.
And so if there was an issue with me, I always say to people, if there was an issue with me and she cared anything about them, she would have gone to them and said, hey, this is what happened. This is what's going on. Let me sit. Let me talk with you. You know, this is what it is. But she didn't, and she hasn't.
Wow.
And it tells me everything I need to know. So I want to go back to, this is why I've started to talk about it now.
Mm-hmm.
People say, well, you need time to heal. I think for me, healing and justice go hand in hand.
Right.
And to me, to be able to heal is to get certain answers, to have a particular kind of network. I've got great friends and great family. So I didn't wind up homeless.
Yeah, that's
I
good to
didn't
hear.
wind up hungry.
Yeah.
You know, I did, man, the bills are crazy. You know, to have to deal with the legal aspect of this is
It can
absolutely
get expensive.
crazy.
It can get expensive. It can get very, very expensive. Let
It
me
can get
ask you.
very expensive.
Yeah. So how did you have that conversation with your kids after the police have served you with a protective
That
order?
was tough, man. That was really tough. I wish I could remember exactly what I said, but I do remember we spent a lot of time talking about this. And I felt like I had let them down.
Yeah.
I really felt like I had let them down. I've always been very close to my children. I'm a hands-on dad. When my children were younger, I homeschooled them for 3 years before I put them into school.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I work for my children. And so when we got into this house on this property, and I was like, wow, I'm a very fortunate dude to be able to provide this to my children, and
Right.
this is going to be theirs one day.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I felt like the biggest failure,
Can you
and
imagine?
you know, so it's a multifaceted dilemma, multifaceted phenomenon where I'm dealing with the legal side, I'm dealing with the family side,
Mm-hmm.
my family and friends and community, and I'm also dealing with the mental, emotional, spiritual, physical side of it. I don't think I've ever been more sick in my life. I never did a whole bunch of therapy. I did a whole bunch of therapy after this happened. Um, and a lot of my therapy was in talking to men like you. I got some great friends, like I said. You got to have a strong network. You should
You
never be
do.
without a strong
Yeah,
network.
you do. It's very hard. I think that's why most men really go to depression right after. Some of them actually,
Yes,
I've heard of story men that have literally killed themselves because of it. This thing is very serious. It's very,
it is
very
very
serious.
serious.
That's why I've created a platform that I've created, and also have a dad support group, because this going through this alone, it's crazy. And that's why I keep saying I can't imagine having a conversation like that with your kids. Them thinking that this is mom, and then mom is doing this to dad. So I can imagine really having that type of conversation with them. So it's tough. See, mine at the time were very small. So they were 2 and 3 at the time, so it wasn't as bad. So, you having teenagers and really having to sit them down, explain this to them. I can't imagine that.
And what really hurt was that, like I said, they were all a week or two away from going back to school.
Wow.
And so, and one of them was going to the same college campus. And this is their stepmother, going to the same college campus as their stepmother.
Wow.
So she had to go onto the campus where this woman worked.
That's crazy.
And the response when my children and my family children, they all rallied around, we rallied together. Everybody was rallying. And they wrote to the campus. Friends were calling, family were calling. They were like, you all cannot just let this happen to this student with one of your faculty members.
Mm-hmm.
One of your faculty members did this. Crickets, man. Nothing from the college. I remember one person wrote to my daughter and said, hey, Jalen, if you need something, please let me know. But for the most part, silence from anybody else. No sense of support. So when I think that's the other thing that as a father became so important to me in this process, and that is I needed to be strong enough to continue to be a father.
Yeah.
So for me to
Absolutely.
break down and go into kind of like, woe is me, and this is all about me. Now, this was about my children.
Mm-hmm.
It was about my family. It was about my friends. It was about the community that I serve.
Right.
People in the area where I live, they know me well because I'm a servant to the community.
Right.
Anybody looks me up, they'll see this dude serves. In addition to being a producer, a writer, he serves. He doesn't just talk. He doesn't just write. He's a service guy. And so when it gets out that your wife has filed a protection from abuse order against you, and you're walking into these same places, and people
look at you different.
They look at you
They will
different.
start side-eyeing you. Yeah. I know the
They
feeling.
look at you very different,
Absolutely.
man.
I know the feeling.
And that's why I said earlier, it's like, why do you have to discredit me?
Yeah.
What's that all about? Why couldn't you just say, hey, let's get a divorce? One of the things I will share with you even after this, but I should have shared this with you before, is I had to go back and look at like the text threads that we shared leading up to this. I was looking for all the evidence of what the hell happened.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah.
And I went back and I looked, Mustafa, at the text threads, and I go back and I see, say on July 14th, and that's crazy too, because I got to the point where I could memorize this text thread.
Wow.
The dates and what was said and the final word. But on July 14th, she wrote to me saying she was grateful. She wrote to me saying, give me 3 things that you're grateful for. We played this little text game.
Mm-hmm.
This is July 14th. This is 2 weeks before she files for divorce.
Wow.
She writes, I'm grateful to share a bed with you every night. And her allegation winds up being that I got into the bed one night and I pulled her hair and I attempted to choke her.
What?
Now, here's the other thing that's interesting. When she filled out the form that they handed to me that day, it says that this incident, this abuse, happened on July the 24th. She didn't file until August the 8th. She didn't file this PFA until August the 8th. So almost 2 weeks goes by from this alleged assault. Why you wait 2 weeks? And then you didn't say anything to me. If this actually happened, I don't remember you turning to me and saying, hey, why'd you do that? Because it didn't happen.
Right.
So July 24th, this incident allegedly happens. July 29th, she files for divorce. August 4th, early in the morning, because I'm up, not knowing what the hell is going on. August 4th, early in the morning, I see an email from her attorney that, yes, she did indeed file for divorce. And then later on that day, the courier shows up with the divorce papers. 45 minutes later, the state troopers show up.
Wow. It seemed like it was all planned last minute. You know, either she had somebody in her ear, or when she went to see a lawyer, they probably told her, okay, this is what you have to do to get this, that, and the third. You know, and I think a lot of them usually do that, but she forgot that she was actually talking to you prior. It's crazy, though, to be honest with you. You know,
Mustafa, I can go back and I can look at the text, and this is so important to me, because if I can help men, and I say this also women, there's this thing when we talk about men that people say, what happens to women too? I think we know that.
Right.
I really do think that we know that. I think that there's a way that when a man says, I've been hurt or abused, everybody goes, so? Big deal. Get over it. You're a man. Be a man.
Right.
You know, we got to hear that stuff. And part of us knows that, yeah, like I said, I got to be a man because I got to be a father to children.
Right.
But what I was going to say is that I kept the text threads, and I go back and I look at this one point on August the 2nd in the text threads, where she's essentially telling me, you need to get out of the house. What is your plan to get out of the house? I filed for divorce and you need to get out of the house. And I'm like, why? We haven't talked. You haven't been here in like 4 days. Why I need to get out of the house? I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. This is my house. And she writes back to me, you need to get out of the house as soon as possible.
Wow. Okay. So I see. I see. So she couldn't get you out the house, so she wanted to go and do. Okay. I see it.
So now you have to, it's like I'm giving you a warning. You can go on your own, or
I'm gonna force you out. Yeah.
I'm gonna force you out.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know. But one thing that I also, I later, it was actually was later that I come to this understanding is that when it comes to judges, sometimes we think that, they need to ask for more evidence before they can approve some of these some of these restraining orders. When I was talking to a judge one day, she said a lot of them are very scared to take the risk. So what they would do is they will offer a temporary restraining orders and then offer a hearing, usually within 30 days or something. Sometimes I think it's 10 to 30 days. And based on the evidence, they can either make it permanent or they can cancel it. Mine thankfully was canceled. But I know many fathers. I know many fathers that didn't have, the opportunity that I guess yours was canceled as well, right? Or was it?
So what happened was, and again, I wish I would have shared these text threads with you. I was convinced that my wife had had a nervous breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
She shared some texts with me leading up to this encounter with the police. She had shared some texts with me that she was going through menopause and that she was struggling with something, menopause, this thing called premenstrual dysphoric disorder. It was this stuff. She just kept texting me, like telling me I'm not okay. And so at one point she sends me an article that asks the question, will your marriage survive menopause?
Wow.
She texts this to me, right? And so it's almost like she was giving me
a little bit of hints.
Some hints, right? Like, right. I'm trying to tell you something and I don't know how to tell you. So I'm gonna drop these hints on you.
Why not just have a clear adult conversation as to what was going on and see if we can get professional help? And that's the thing that I don't understand. And I know most women actually do this, and I know this personally. A lot of them actually ended up regretting this after, But the thing about it is, whether you regret it or not, the damage is already done, especially if the judge have made it permanent. I know people that have lost their job. I know people that have literally taken their own life. So it's very, very serious. And this thing really, it stays on you. It stays on you like, it's crazy.
Man, I can't thank you enough for providing this kind of platform to talk about this specifically for dads.
Right.
Because again, if you're a father and you're trying to raise children, maintain a household, and something like this happens to you, I've talked to people like you've talked to people who know people who have taken their lives.
Absolutely.
Who've just decided.
It happens every day.
There's no point in me being around here.
Exactly.
I used to hear this all the time from dudes who would say, you're better off with me dead than me alive. Yeah. I'm of more value to you if I'm dead. And that's a sad thing to
sad
hear.
Truth. Yeah, it's a sad truth. Yeah, I know a guy that that shared a story with me. Like, he almost taken his life because he felt like nobody was listening to him, and he couldn't afford a lawyer, so he had to represent himself. And he brought so many evidence. I don't know if he knew how to present his evidence in court or not, but he said he brought just about every text messages, videos, pictures, and the judge still granted the restraining order. So with that, he lost his job. And not only that, it stays on you. So if a police officer, for example, stops you, they have to call for backup, to make sure, because you literally becomes a threat, and it's a criminal record. It's a criminal record that stays on you, and sometimes it's 12 months to 5 years. Sometimes they can even make it longer than that, just depend on the judge. So it's very, very dangerous. It's very dangerous, so, but let me play you the video. And if you can just walk us through what was going through your mind when the police showed up, and I'm also going to share this on
videotaping this because this is some bullshit.
I do want to come back to you. You had asked the question about the court situation. I want to come back to that if we can.
Okay,
after we play
absolutely.
the video.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
How can I help you? I'm videotaping this because this is some bullshit. You don't mind? Hello, sir. My name is Ulysses Butch Slaughter,
Yes, sir.
and you are.
Trooper Orgish.
All right, everybody got that because I'm gonna share this shit.
So I can see it.
are?
You want me to talk now?
Yes,
like
yes,
these
yes.
guys.
I mean, if you want to comment, I'll stop it, and then you can just comment as we go along with it.
Yeah. Well, when I saw them coming up the driveway, they pulled around behind. We have a carport. They pulled behind the carport. They had actually pulled to my neighbor's place and then backed up. And I saw them, and I walked out, and I had just received the divorce papers. So I'm like, okay, I'm in the twilight zone now. Let me just go out here and see what's going on. So as they walk up, obviously I had the camera
phone,
filming, and I can't tell you what I was thinking. I think I was just like, if there's ever been a moment where my head was empty at one level, it was that moment, until he asked me who I was. He asked me for ID. I took up my ID. He asked me if I was connected with my wife. He said her name. I said yes. And he goes, here's the deal. She's serving you with a PFA. And as confused as I was, I had no idea what a damn PFA was. I just had no idea.
If you've never been through it, you will know. Yeah, that's true.
Mustafa, I literally sat on the ground. The wind came out of me. I sat on the ground. So when you see one angle of the footage, you may notice that they are higher than
Yeah, over. Right.
I could have fainted, man. I know that might sound dumb, but I could have fainted. It was that shocking to me.
I can't imagine, man. Yeah, it's tough, to be honest. It's tough. Like, there's not much. What can you really do, though? That's the thing. There's not much you can do, but just what can you do?
and they're giving me what they're supposed to give me, and I'm learning in real time what a PFA is. I'm learning what's going on. And when he says to me, he says something was going on that she didn't like. And I'm like, what in the world does that mean? That's all he could say, was something was going on that she didn't like. And he hands me the paper, and I start to flip through it. And of course I recognize her handwriting.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking to myself, this is her handwriting. She filled out this paper. She went someplace and filled out this paper and wrote all of this down, and none of it is true. None of it is true. And I believe it was a Thursday. Pretty sure it was a Thursday.
Wow.
Maybe it was a Wednesday. I'll go back and I'll look. But my point is that I had to wait 7 or 8 days for a hearing. But going back to the footage, I'm just kind of in shock. I think that's the best way to describe the whole period of time. And I just kept thinking, who is this woman? Yeah. What is this woman doing?
They usually say you don't know who you're married to until you get to divorce court.
I've heard that so many times. And I've said this, and I know that there are fathers who can relate to this. You don't have to be married to somebody for them to pull this on you.
Right.
And you could have a prenuptial and have somebody pull this on you. There's nothing that can prevent this from happening other than the person who decides to do it.
Yeah.
A false allegation can be made whether you're a passport bro, whether you're a single bro, right, whether you're a married bro, whether you got prenups, whether you put everything in your mama's name. A false allegation has no boundaries. Exactly. And that's the problem.
Yeah.
And you said this earlier. We'll get back to this, I'm sure, but a judge is in a bind of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
Because if there's anything close to the possibility, they have to err on the side of caution.
Right.
What judge wants to find out later that something happened to somebody
Yeah, when they could have
because
prevented
she
it.
let them
Right.
go?
Right. Right.
So I don't know if you want to continue to run that, but the footage, but
So this is a PFA, right?
and people ask me why I
So
asked
you're
the
with,
dude to take his glasses off. I
who's
I
that
really
to?
wanted to be able to identify them the same way they were identifying me.
Right.
You know, I wanted to know what this guy looked like behind those glasses.
Yeah.
So I wasn't trying to. Somebody said, "Why are you busting his balls?" I'm not busting his balls. Again, I'm a military guy too. And so there's a side of me that says, let me know who I'm working with. Let me
Yeah.
know who I'm dealing with
Right.
before we go any further. Because once you walk into the house with me, that's a scary moment to have somebody behind you with guns.
Yeah.
And you know, we've seen enough of that. And I know while it is an exception to the rule that somebody will get hurt under those circumstances, I didn't want to be an exception that day.
Exactly. Right. You know. Okay, let me play a little bit more.
She's my wife.
Okay.
Good deal. All right, so here's the deal. She's serving a PFA against you.
What is
So
that?
again,
Protection from
he's
abuse.
reading it off to me.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody heard that?
And he's trying to be
Okay.
That's what
as, again, kind enough to really understand what some people can't seem to understand. That is, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I don't know what a protection from abuse is. For me, which is why I wound up asking, am I going to have to leave? Like, I don't even know where she is. I haven't seen her for days. And so does this mean I have to keep away from her? Does this mean, I don't know what it means. And like I said, as I start to flip through the paper and look at her handwriting and look at the story that she's written on this paper, and I just keep imagining, Mustafa, her in a courthouse, sitting in a chair, filling this out, taking the time to fill this out. I'm imagining what is going through this woman's mind as she's writing this. What's possessing her to do this? Why is she doing this? And then when he finally explains to me that you're going to have to go, you're going to go in a house, you're going to get some things. He says an overnight bag, I think, or something like that. So again, I'm still kind of confused about what this process is. Because an overnight bag is an overnight bag.
Yeah.
That's like, I can come back tomorrow. And then it starts to come to me that, no, you're going to have a court date. He shows me the paper and he says, you'll get a court date. There was no court date on that paper. He says, you're going to get a court date. And I'm like, well, where am I going to find this out?
Right.
It was just crazy, man. It was crazy. Just
It's
listening to that
see,
was crazy.
I was when I was going through it too. I had the same thought process because I couldn't believe that this person that claimed to love you, you know, that claimed to always gonna be there for you and all this other stuff. When you're sitting, you're reading that paper, especially when you see it in their handwriting, I think that's the thing that really hurts the most. You know,
I couldn't agree more, man.
yeah, one thing that, because I was really asking myself the same question, but when you really look at it, it's like if you are not an evil person, it's very hard to try to put yourself in their place or in their position to understand what will possess you to be able to put these lies on paper about me, knowing that what it can do for my future. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
I understand the feeling. I won't lie to you. I understand the feeling. It's one of the most. I think going through something like this is one of the pain that comes with it. There was nothing that I can really say that can compare to that. Honestly, it's really it's crazy.
I think people underestimate, and again, it's people who haven't gone through it, which is why these conversations are so important, which is why I am dedicated to telling this story in many different ways. when you just got through saying that to me, when you look and you see her handwriting and you know that she wrote this, it's not like somebody typed it,
Exactly. That's what
which is
hurts the
very
most.
different.
Mm-hmm.
It would be very different if it was typewritten,
Right.
right? But you know your woman's handwriting,
Right.
and you are looking at this false allegation. And like you said, this could devastate my life. This person has decided to devastate me, attempt to devastate me, attempt to cripple me,
Mm-hmm.
and does not care that the cripple could lead to death.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And one thing that I was actually talking to a mother that did this, and she was sorry about it. And she was just writing me, letting me know what happened and what basically led her to go and file these false allegations against the man that she had at the time. And one thing that I also, that was really clear to me was that most mother don't know the consequences of these things. They don't know what it can do to either your husband, the father of your children. They don't really understand that. To them, or maybe the way that it is explained to them is just, this is how you get an upper hand. This is how you get a foot up, against them, not knowing the consequences, the ramification that actually comes by you filing these false allegations against me. Now, God forbid, you standing in front of the judge, whatever that you're bringing, the judge is not accepting your evidence. And then they make this thing a permanent. Your life is changed from that moment forward.
Changed. And in some ways, you are without a direction.
Yeah.
No matter how stable you might have been financially, emotionally, spiritually, there's a way that you are without direction from the standpoint
Yeah.
that this becomes such a big part of your life.
Yeah.
This false allegation, you're standing in the mirror looking at yourself, you're doing a lot of questioning, you sleepless nights. Like I said, for some guys it's therapy, for some guys it's drinking. It's something that you begin to observe yourself like from another angle in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's what it's designed to do. And I guess you're right that when some women do this, they may not know the extent.
I don't believe they know. Yeah, I would literally argue that half of them, when they file these type of allegations, they do not know what they are doing. It's maybe something that they saw a friend do, maybe they saw on TV, or they have an attorney that's telling them that this is what you have to do to be able to get a foot, to be able to get an upper hand in this case. But I don't believe that they do, because if they do and they still do it, it makes it even worse, to be quite honest.
It does. And I keep saying this, but I'm going to tell this story more in a more full way in different places. And I'm glad I waited this long to tell it because I have a certain amount of experience. And this is just, again, for me, that I can look back and I can see things a lot more clearly.
Right.
Right. I can see them more clearly. And my situation isn't going to be everybody's situation.
Mm-hmm.
But I gave myself enough time to look. I've actually had conversations with her in this period of time.
Okay.
And I've listened to her. I've actually been close enough to touch her. And what I've observed is somebody who has a problem.
Yeah.
Somebody who has a real problem. And part of that problem, Mustafa, is probably related to what maybe it's her disbelief that she did what she did.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe part of that is that. Maybe part of it is, again, that she is or had some kind of breakdown. You use the term, I think you used the term evil. I've heard other people say this before, that this is an evil thing to do if you're doing this intentionally. And one of the things that hurt me really bad was that I actually wrote to her attorney at one point because I just kept thinking something is wrong with her.
Yeah.
I wrote to her attorney and said, look, we need to figure this out. Tell her, I said this, tell her we need to figure this out. This is before I had an attorney. Do you know that he tried to uh, file? He actually filed that I had broken the PFA by reaching out to him.
Yeah.
I reached out to him. Did you know
So-
that I went? I still got to go back to what happened in the court, but I literally went to his office and dropped off a letter and said, "Look, what's up?" Later that night, 5 or 6 state troopers surrounded my previous ex-wife's house.
Wow.
Looking for me. My 15-year-old boy was there. It was about 7:30, 8 o'clock. He's walking out to see what's going on, and they have surrounded the house looking for me. I'm not there. But this was the extra danger now. This was the added danger. So now all of a sudden, anything I do is criminal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank God for me. I personally know the district attorney and the assistant district attorney. And so I was able to have some conversations, nothing that compromised their work.
Right.
But I was able to have some conversation with the assistant district attorney and say, what the hell is going on here? And he was like, you need to get a good lawyer.
Yeah. But what I don't understand is, if you do not communicate with her lawyer, how are you supposed to, get the case moving forward? I understand that if maybe you try to reach out to her directly, then you have violated. Well, maybe because you have. I don't understand it. I don't understand you talking to the lawyer. I don't get that.
I don't either. And I think it was, again, these are like these power moves, these silly legal games that are very dangerous.
Yeah.
And the ramifications are far, far reaching. And I just feel sorry, man, when I think about other guys who have gone through this. And a friend of mine says to me all the time, luckily for you, you have a network of people who can help you. You have the mental capacity, you've got the skills, you've got things that other guys don't have.
Right.
So you being in this fire, you can operate in this fire. Other guys will just sit there and they'll burn.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I usually tell fathers, the moment that if you are dealing with, a baby mother or your ex-wife or whatever, the moment that they hire an attorney, you have to do everything that you can to also hire one. Because the moment an attorney steps in on their behalf, just know that they will do everything that they can to destroy you.
Yes, they will.
Everything. And then when an attorney actually steps into, let's call it a family affair, it's very hard for you guys to come into a solution.
Yes,
they have to push forward they will drag it as long as they can, because that's usually how they make their money, and then most people don't understand this. Some attorneys don't get as many clients as they claim to do. A lot of them are broke, to be quite honest, and I'm not saying this to sound, to make fun of them. It's just the reality of things. A lot of them don't get clients like that. So when they get a client and they know that I can milk this case, they will literally do that.
Yes, they will.
So if you can afford it, always get you a lawyer.
And I didn't take a lawyer into the first hearing with me. Mustafa, I was convinced that something was wrong with my wife and that we gonna work this out. And I'm a smart enough dude to walk in here and I can explain this. I had all the text messages. I had everything. One attorney friend of mine said to me, calls me Butch. He says, Butch, even if they were trying to get a 3-year PFA, I should mention that.
Jesus Christ.
A 3-year PFA for this alleged me getting into bed, me pulling her hair, and me trying to choke her. Never happened. Nothing like that has ever happened in any of my relationships. It never happened. But they wanted a 3-year PFA. And I say this, before we went to court, her attorney reached out to me and wrote to me we are willing to withdraw the PFA if you will give her exclusive possession of the property.
So that's what she was really going for, the house. Yeah. When I when I posted it online, that was the first thing that came to mind. She wanted the house.
Give her exclusive possession of the house. I'm in the middle of a lawsuit. I'm working on a lawsuit now about this whole matter. But I'm like, no, I'm not giving up exclusive possession of the house. So we go into court. I go into court. You know, I don't know the dance of the courtroom. I just know that I ain't done nothing wrong.
Right.
And I got some paper with me, and I'm gonna have this conversation with the judge. But before I went into court, a lawyer friend of mine said, even if they allow you back into that house, don't go in that house, because if that woman will lie one time,
she'll lie again.
She will fall down the stairs and say you pushed her.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's true. If nothing else, I'm not going in that house. So what wound up happening is that I must have held my own pretty well trying to defend myself. And I was broken, bro, because as I'm sitting there, I'm thinking I'm gonna look down and I'm gonna see a wife who acknowledges me, and she's like, oh, she kind of snaps out of it. Man, she doubled down.
Yeah.
She doubled down. She started talking about the other times that we were together and other things that happened. And the judge said, well, did you ever call the police? She goes, no. And so I could see that the judge was, she wasn't buying this. Yeah. The judge wasn't buying it. And in the end, I wound up saying to the judge, my wife said that she had premenstrual dysphoric disorder. It's called PMDD. And the judge looks at me and goes, well, what is that? And then she calls for a sidebar. I go stand there with the judge and my wife's attorney for 45 minutes explaining this condition that my wife told me that she had. And the judge ultimately says that my wife's claims are unfounded. They were unfounded. And she still granted a 6-month separation. Going back to your point around the safety that the judge might be thinking about, let's just make sure that nothing happens. I look back and I go, that probably was the thing to do. And I wasn't going to go in that house anyway.
Right.
I was probably more in danger from the judge's standpoint.
Right.
Which I appreciate that. But what I don't appreciate is that there is no penalty for the false allegation.
Exactly.
So they wind up saying things like it's unfounded. What's the difference between unfounded and a lie? If somebody comes in and they present an allegation, it's either true or false.
Right.
And if it's false, and if a judge has any experience and they know that this woman just filed for divorce, she filed for divorce, Judge. See, I'm not a lawyer. If I had a lawyer, my lawyer probably would have torn into that. But I'm crying. I'm sitting in there, Mustafa. I mean, I am distraught, bro, because my wife is going in on me like she don't know me.
That's usually how it is.
She just went in on me like she didn't know me, like I was the worst guy ever. And her attorney is really being theatrical and all of this stuff. And
because they have to paint you like a monster, you know, they have to literally change your entire image in that courtroom so that judge can lean a little bit towards them, you know. But one thing I usually advise fathers, and I had to do this myself, is you have to remain calm as much as you possibly can, you know. This is going to be one of the hardest things that you will ever have to do on your own in your entire life, to be quite honest. But whenever you're in front of that judge, no sign of discredit, no sign of aggression whatsoever. You have to become polite, you know, wait for your turn. Don't interrupt them. Just let them talk. Because one thing that I've come to understand, some of these, actually, I would say the new judges now, you know, these young judges, a lot of them understand the game now. You know, I think the old judges, you know, most of them just don't care, to be quite honest. They just want to, you know, move the case forward. So whatever the mother say or whatever the wife say, honestly, they believe that. Especially if you are representing yourself, they will literally believe that. And this is another point that I wanted to raise, is that when you representing yourself, you have to know the court procedure.
Yes,
You
you
know,
do.
if you don't know how to properly present yourself, what end up happening is you may have a good case, but you will mess it up because you are making so many mistakes. The judge is
Yep.
now becoming very impatient with you,
Yes.
as opposed to having an attorney who understand how the procedure go, who understand how to present the evidence, who
Right.
understand how to make you look good in front of the judge,
Right.
and this is why most judge, when they see you were presenting yourself, the
Right.
whole demeanor will change.
And having gone in by myself and like I said, not doing a bad job, um, and then going in with an attorney who knew exactly what to do. She was objecting to things and
Hmm.
hearsay, and I mean she was just like stuff that I would have never
Never
thought
knew,
to do.
right? Exactly.
You
Yeah.
know, so I remember at one point her attorney just rambled on and on and on and on and on and on. And I'm sure if an attorney was sitting there with me, she
Yeah.
would have been
Or object to it, right?
objection, objection, objection,
Right.
objection. And we're getting into another side of it, but it all started with a false allegation.
Right.
It all started with a false allegation, and people need to understand, depending on where you are in the country, in the world, you don't need a whole lot of evidence to
Hmm.
file one of these things.
Yeah.
In Pennsylvania, you can go fill out something and you can stand before a judge, and the judge is kind of like working with what this person said, and
Yeah.
all they know is, and see, here's the other thing, and I'm not going to exaggerate this, but I'm not going to dismiss this either. There are relationships between judges and lawyers.
Yeah.
It's just true.
Yeah. No, that's the reality of things. That's that. Honestly, though,
It's true.
that is, and I had to experience this, and I've talked to judges that I've met a judge that was he was a lawyer in one county and he was a judge in another county, and he made it very clear that a lot of these judges or these lawyers, they are in the boys or there's some type of a
Yep.
club,
Yep.
so they know each other, and then
Yep.
sometimes a judge may approve or deny a case based on the relationship they
That's
have
correct.
with your attorney. That's
That's
100%
correct.
right.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And there's this thing, and I don't know if you and I were talking about this. I've talked with so many people about this situation now. Somebody was talking about courtroom shopping, I think was the term. Court shopping or judge shopping, where an attorney will know when a particular judge is on the bench
Mm-hmm.
and will wait for that judge to be on the bench
Right.
to go in front of that judge.
Yeah.
And so when I look again back at the time frame from when my ex-wife, alleges that this happened to the time that she actually files it, to the time that we show up in court, this attorney probably knows, okay, that person's not going to be on the bench on that day, so we need to do this over there at this time.
Right.
And then, like I said, she left home. She had been gone for like 5 days. She left home for 5 days. And in that period of time, had to be doing something.
Yeah.
Right? Had to be doing something. The preparation for the false allegation was in motion. I had no idea.
Yeah.
No idea. And I really hope that this conversation that we're having and other conversations help men to regain their voice. That's the other reason why I've been wanting to do this.
Right.
Because it
Absolutely.
disorients you, it depresses you. People talk about the trauma related to this. And because fathers don't know what to do, they go silent.
Yeah.
And it's like they disappear, Mustafa.
Yeah.
They become invisible men.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's important for them to be heard and to be able to say something. It's often said that women will speak up, women will get with other women, they'll talk with other women, they'll talk about their problems, and men don't do that.
Right.
And some of this stuff is cultural, and I mean cultural from the standpoint of the man culture. You can be black, white, Asian, depending on the culture. Men a lot of the times will act like they got to go it alone and will be quiet.
That's what's
and
killing
go
us.
off.
Yeah.
That's what's killing
Yeah.
us.
That's
like
what's
we'll
killing
go
us.
off to a corner.
Yeah.
And be quiet because we're too embarrassed and too ashamed
Yeah.
to say something. And I've said things to different people. I recently did another post on TikTok, and the amount of people that have just kind of run at me about what I'm saying,
Mm-hmm.
to me says it all.
Yeah.
It says it all, because this is why men of all races, all creed, will sometimes just shut up.
Yeah.
My thing is, nah, you need to have a strong network that you can speak to. You need to be able to come into communion, fellowship with some folks
Yeah.
and talk it out, because this thing will leave you spinning.
It really
And the
will.
sooner you
Yeah.
gather your stability, the sooner you'll be able to recover, is a term I've been hearing people use.
Yeah. Yeah. This is why I'm very vocal with my platform, and I've really opened it to just about anybody that's going through these type of problems. It's, you have to talk to somebody. You have to
Yes,
talk
you
to
do.
somebody. You can't do it alone. I honestly though, anybody that have done it alone, they are not okay. They have not been
No,
okay since it
no,
happened. So
brother,
it's very dangerous. Very dangerous.
your platform is crucial, and I hope that more men. One of the calls that I've been making to men about this specific situation, this false allegation thing, is let's come into fellowship
Right.
and let's talk this out. You see people doing things like AA and NA, and you got different kind of anonymous
Groups. Right. Right.
groups, right? I think there should be an anonymous for this.
Yeah.
There should be a group of people who will sit and listen to other men tell their stories. And some people say, well, we don't need a whining session. Nah, that ain't what I'm talking
It's not
about.
whining. Right. Mhm.
Nah, that ain't what I'm talking about. Let's not do that. Let's not be so manly that when a dude says, my heart is hurting, my soul is hurting, my spirit is broken. And people just go, man, go to the gym, or man, go do this. Man, nah, no. Like you said, this is what keeps us hurting.
Yeah.
It's because nobody wants to hear the father who is supposed to be the tough disciplinarian and all that kind of stuff. Nah, daddy is hurting.
Yeah.
Dad is hurting.
Yeah.
Something happened to dad. Somebody did something to dad.
Yeah.
He needs
And
to be heard.
yeah, funny you say that, because I ran a poll on the on my dad's group. I want to say about 3 days ago,
Mm-hmm.
and let me read you the result just based on what you just said just now. It's so the poll I asked what are some of the challenges you are facing as a father, right? The first option was maintaining a good mental health. The second option was financial responsibilities. And then the third option was finding work-life balance, right? 273 people, well, 273 fathers, they all say maintaining a good mental health is the issue right now. And it goes to it goes to what you just said. This thing can really have you, and I'm not saying that all of them are going through this type of problem. It's just being a man in general. You have to juggle family life, work, and everything else in between. It's very
Right.
hard. Very, very
Yes.
hard. So I always push people, to be honest with you, join a group and be vocal. Don't just join and be
Yes.
quiet. Join in
Right.
and be vocal. And I think
Yes.
until we all stand up, nothing will change.
And
Nothing will
again,
change.
this is why your platform is so important. And this is why I have reached out to other men specifically who are who have platforms like this,
Right.
is that um, we need a collective.
Yeah.
We need, when you said be vocal, to raise it up out of you.
Yeah.
There's something spiritual about being vocal and
Yeah.
opening up your mouth and letting the pain out of you. You get constipated with this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the mental health that people are talking about speaks to the ability to be positive and work things out, to feel like I can figure this out. And what we're hearing right now is that guys are like, I can't figure this out. I can't figure it out.
Yeah. Just
And
giving
they
up.
become constricted.
Yeah.
And like you said, next thing you know, they're giving up. It's like there's no hope. Hope is in the collective.
Yeah.
Hope is in the network. Being able to turn to another man and say, when I called my friends and had to say to them, that the woman that they knew that I was with filed a false allegation against me. And even to today, I still call people and I'm still talking about this. There's something liberating about it.
Yeah.
And there's also something still something painful about it, because you said this earlier. This is the person that said that they loved you and would never do anything to hurt you,
Mm-hmm.
and all of that. And it people use the term cognitive dissonance. There's an element of ongoing cognitive dissonance for some people who look at her and go, she would never do that. She would never do that. And I'm thinking, yeah, I thought so too. I never thought she would do that. I never thought that we would be at this place.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, your brain gets all twisted up, man, and we got to speak up. We really
We
do.
have to. Yeah, we have to. Let me play this last clip and then we're gonna close. I know we've
Okay.
been on it for an hour. So this
Okay.
is when they were basically telling you to. Let me play.
Overnight bag. All right, so
Right.
we'll go inside so you can get some of your things.
I have to leave with you?
No, you can drive away.
No. What I'm asking you is, I have to leave right now.
Correct. Yep. So you can go inside, gather up some of your things. We allow you that courtesy. And you have a
Bruh.
car here?
I do.
As I've
On
looked
your
at
own
this so
accord,
many
you can leave,
times
okay?
more recently, somebody called that the thousand mile stare. And that's exactly what it felt like. Like, again, we have a beautiful piece of property. And I just remember feeling like I was blind in that moment. It was almost like, what what are you saying? What's going on here?
Yeah.
And like I was looking like, what's the answer here? What's the problem here? What's the reality here? And it was all Twilight Zone, man. It was Twilight Zone. I am talking to two state troopers about something that I didn't do. It was that easy.
Yeah.
It was that easy, Mustafa.
Yeah, they don't ask for much. When they go to court, that courtroom do not ask for much. They can put anything on that paper and the judge will give it to them. The judge will give it to them. You know what I mean? But I have to applaud you because you didn't fight these police officers. You didn't argue with them. You wasn't rude. You wasn't mean to them. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of that can really learn from this, because most of us, when we see this and the fact that it's a lie, it's like you really want to defend yourself, And I think when you do that, it makes you look bad, because whether you defend yourself or not with these police officers, there's nothing they can do. The judge is the only person that can cancel that protective order. These police officers, they cannot do anything for you. So the only thing that you can do, respect them, obey whatever order, command they give you, and let it be that. It's really hard to understand, but I think that's the best thing that you can do for yourself. The best thing you can do for your case is just to remain calm. Remain calm.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I don't know how, if there's a way that through conversations like this, you and I can prepare people for moments like this. I don't know that we even want to, but I think that that's something worth talking about. Were you going to show another clip?
Yeah, this is the last one when I think they were talking to your kids.
Yes.
If it's better, maybe I should.
Yeah. So my children went back to the house. This was actually before. That's my second youngest son. He was 16 at the time.
It's already been 3
17.
minutes and 12 seconds.
Xavier was 17 at the time.
Wow.
And again, she never said anything to them about anything that supposedly happened between me and her. They were devastated
I can
when they went
imagine.
back to the house.
Yeah.
And because it just kind of, everything just kind of snapped. He had just returned from a vacation. He had gone to the shore with some friends and came back to find out that I had been put out, and that she wasn't allowing them back in either, and that she had made this allegation. They were, man, they were so sad. They went inside. She finally let them in. She has removed all of their stuff.
Wow.
She's packed up all their stuff, put it in bags, told them to get their stuff and get to step in. They weren't prepared to come.
But how
and
can
get
you
their
be
stuff.
prepared for something like that? And that thing about it is, so it makes you question: did she really ever loved me at any point of
That's
relationship?
exactly right. That's the thing, man. That's the thing. And I keep saying, you don't see these things coming, but then you do have to question the whole fantasy, the whole relationship.
Yeah, you don't
Like,
question it all. Yeah,
how does this come down to this? And you're gonna do this to my children?
yeah,
And
yeah.
and you this is their home, and you're telling them they don't live here? They were just here
Right.
yesterday, 2 days ago. They've been here.
Yeah.
We moved in here together.
It's
So
tough.
keeping my faith and keeping my calm is what I must do as a father
Yeah,
for my children. I gotta figure out a way to have a victory that that honors my children.
yeah,
It's bigger than me. As a father, it's bigger than me. If this was just about me and a woman and we were in a relationship and it just kind of went south, that's one thing.
exactly. Right.
That's not what this is.
Yeah,
This is a legacy I'm talking about here. As a father, this is a legacy.
yeah,
How I behave. I remember one of my older sons. I have a 32-year-old who said, "Dad, I'm just really surprised at how calm and cool you've been through this time." And there are times that they've seen me break down and cry and that stuff. But he was like, he says, "I just can't believe how calm and organized you've been." And I simply said to him, "I'm doing that because I know you're watching me.
yeah,
I know that my children are watching me. And if they see me distraught for too long, it will hurt them. If they see me more strong and more organized, it will give them hope."
yeah.
So I can't afford to traumatize you with my behavior. I'm still raising you. This is part of raising you. This situation has become part of raising you. I didn't ask for this, but it happened.
Yeah.
And you're still my children. I don't care how old you are. You're still my children. So
It's sad. I truly am sorry that happened to you. To be honest with you, you know, it's crazy. We can't even put in words. It's one of the toughest thing that you will ever, like I keep saying it because I've experienced it, is one of the toughest thing that you can ever go through as a man in this country. It's very, very, very hard. You know, it's very hard. You know, so again, and I truly thank you again for being an example of how, you know, how you are to act when something like this is raised against you. You know, you want to ask questions, but be polite, be understanding that these police officers, they're only doing their job. There's not much that they can do, to be honest. Even if I try to explain it to them, there's nothing they can do for me. You know. So I wanted to ask you, did you have to call your kids to testify on your behalf? Did they ever come to that? Okay. All right. Thankful. All right.
No. I just like I said, man, I was certain that she was having a nervous breakdown and that I needed to go in here and I needed to approach it in the most calm way possible. I was still going in thinking I'm gonna save this situation.
Right.
Something is really, it was so bad, Mustafa, that I could not believe that this was intentional. I could not accept that this was intentional, this was by design, and that this is what she was trying to do.
Yeah.
And so y'all don't need to come. I got this.
Wow. So I guess we can close with this now. So how did that case end? If you don't want to talk about that, that's fine. So how did it end? Did she ended up getting the house or?
Well, I'm suing her right now. Suing her for the property, suing her. I'm considering filing a defamation of character lawsuit. A number of people have, on her behalf, said and written things about me that are not true.
Right. They
And
usually do
so,
that. Yeah. They usually have a, see, that's another thing that really gets us men. For most of these women, if they do something like this, usually they have a group of people behind them that
yeah,
will
yeah,
somewhat appear as they are supporting them. We don't have
yes,
that.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
So
so
yeah. So the divorce is just about done.
okay.
We are probably, I don't know, maybe a month away from maybe seeing a decree.
Okay.
Everything besides the decree has been issued, so that's a done deal.
Okay. Okay.
The asset part of this is still, we're going to have to fight over this.
Right.
It's unfortunate, but yeah, there are a couple of legal matters. It's sad, man. I just keep thinking about this person that took this route to do this thing.
Yeah.
And you were saying this earlier that they don't know what they're doing. I don't imagine. I think she just thought that she was going to do this and just push me to the side.
Right.
Like that it was just a matter of, I'm just pushing you to the side. Don't take it personally. I'm just pushing you to the side. I don't care if you want to see somebody else. I don't care what your new life looks like.
Yeah.
Don't use this to jumpstart your new life. Don't
Right.
use a false allegation to jumpstart your new life.
Yeah. Right.
You can go do that thing. You want to see somebody else? You want to what? I don't care. Just don't use the false allegation
Right.
to jumpstart your new life.
Yeah. And I don't think most women actually understand that just by you being a woman, going to court, that court will almost always lean in your favor. So you don't really have to raise these false allegations against your
That's correct.
your ex, you know. And that's the one thing that really, see, when I was going through and I was thinking about these things, was like, you know what? Okay, you didn't know at the beginning, but now you see what it's doing
Yes.
to me.
Yes.
And you're still not doing anything about that. So now it's, you know, you're doing this because you want to destroy me. You know, and that's
so
really
glad you
what,
said that.
yeah, and that's really when I changed my whole thought process, because I was at the beginning I was defending myself, you know. So when I saw, you know, that okay, it may have been a mistake, but now you see again what it's doing to me, and you're not doing anything about that. It's war now, and I think most men don't understand that. They don't understand that sometimes when you get to that point, you have tried everything that you can in your power to get them to either understand what is it doing to you, and they still don't care. You can no longer see them the way that you used to see them when you guys were once in love, or once, you know, when the relationship was going great. You cannot see that anymore. You have to look at them as, this is now my enemy. She's coming for me, and I have to protect what is mine, myself, you know, and really go at this the way that they are coming to me at it.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I mean?
And,
So it's, go ahead.
And even above and beyond. I mean, you know, I started looking at this in a very cold, strategic kind of way. And it took a lot for me because of how I felt about this woman.
Yeah.
I mean, I would never have thought.
Yeah.
Never. And I just can't. I want people to understand that if you are trying to build a relationship, you don't spend a lot of time questioning the other person.
Right.
You try to invest more trust than doubt.
Mm-hmm.
And so, man, we could go on forever, I guess, but I just want people to know that
right. It's
I'm easy to find.
Yeah.
If I can be of help to anybody, they want to reach out and talk and share stories about this specific thing of false allegations. I'm doing workshops about this. I'm gathering groups about this. This has become, it's an international conversation.
Absolutely.
I've gotten calls from Portugal,
Absolutely.
Nigeria, different parts of Canada.
Right.
It's a big, big deal.
Yeah,
It
it's global.
hurts.
Yeah.
It hurts, and it hurts to your audience. It hurts fathers
Yeah.
really bad.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I know
Really
fathers
bad.
personally that have lost their kids. Some they can even spend time with their children, because of these false allegations. So it's crazy. It's really crazy. You know what I mean? And see, I laugh at it now because, to be honest, if you don't laugh, you go crazy.
Yes, you do.
You just have to laugh at it and do the best that you can. Keep your head up. Join the group. I think that's the best thing that you can do for yourself. Join the group. Don't go at it alone. Don't try to fight it alone. So where can the people find you before we get off?
You go to my website, which is ulyssesbutchslaughter.com. ulyssesbutchslaughter.com. You go there, and there's any number of links you could hit. One that just says contact me. You can contact me there. That's the easiest way to get to me.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Any last comment before we get out of here?
I just want to say to you again, thank you so much for reaching out. Thank you so much for what you're doing for fathers in general. But it's so interesting that there's a way that fatherhood is always challenged.
Yeah.
There's always an opposition.
Yeah.
Some kind of opposition to fatherhood. It's almost like an original sin of fatherhood, and that thing needs to be removed from us.
Yeah.
And we got to deal with what does it take to strengthen the fathers who are raising generations to come.
Yeah.
We got to talk about that. I want to say again what you said earlier was crucial. Please, men, don't try to go this alone.
Yeah. You're not going to win. You can't win alone. Yeah, you can't win alone.
You cannot.
Yeah.
Form study groups, form support groups, be with other men, other fathers who will tell you you're going to be okay and will help you to figure out things that you can't figure out in difficult times. Because guys who are clear, who have clear brains, fathers who have clear brains right now are the resources for the ones who are struggling.
Yeah.
So please reach out to guys.
Yeah.
Don't be ashamed to reach out to guys. Do it. Brother Mustafa, thanks again.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Hope you have a good one, okay?
Great.
All right,
Good. Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right.